Hello everyone, welcome back. I am Krishna. Let's continue with our learning of product manufacturing capabilities in SAP Business Bydesign. In Unit 2 of Week 3, we will discuss the key production master data objects that are required to enable the production process. To put things in perspective, in this unit, we will be discussing the specify function from the production process that we have discussed in the earlier unit. There are primarily three master data elements that will help the user in defining production process. Production bill of material, which is most commonly referred to as BOM, production bill of operations, which is most commonly referred to as BOO, and finally production model. Production model is created by combining bill of material and bill of operation. Let's go through them in detail now. Production bill of material. Production bill of material primarily refers to the structured list of all the components that constitute a product. While creating production bill of material, engineering change order is mandatory. Engineering change order, or ECO as it is most commonly known, primarily refers to the design document which defines the basis for creating or modifying the BOM. If I take the example of a cartridge, it can have the items as ball, carrier, etc. It will also have the information of how many units of these items are required to make one cartridge. While defining production bill of material, user can also group the components with the help of item group. Taking the example of cartridge again, I can group different stem products such as plastic stem and steel stem into item group stem. Similarly, I can group various types of ink such as black ink, red ink into one item group called as ink. User also has the flexibility to create multiple variants for a BOM such that user don't need to create the entire BOM from the scratch for every variant of the product. Taking the example of cartridge again, I can create multiple variants of the cartridge depending upon the kind of stem and ink I wish to use in it. The next element is bill of operations. A bill of operations is a detailed specification for how you manufacture a product. The basic elements in the bill of operation are operations and activities. Operations can be of type make, supply or check. Depending upon the operation type, activity can be of type setup, produce, tear down or final inspection. You can specify the resources that perform an activity in an operation. You can define what to do and how long does it take to do it in a fixed or variable durations in an activity. The fixed duration is constant regardless of how many items you need to manufacture, whereas the variable duration is always related to the quantity of the bill of operations. The next element is sequence. You can use sequences for defining complex manufacturing process to specify branched or parallel process paths. You can only use this element type together with branching or connection element. Let's quickly discuss the connection element now. Using a connection, you can link one or several process paths to an existing process path. The process path to be linked are defined by the sequences that contain the operations to be carried out. The next element is branching. You can use branching element type to create several alternative process paths for a manufacturing process. The branched process paths are defined by the sequences that in turn contain the operations to be carried out. Unlike the connection element, in branching, at a point of time, only one branch representing one process path can be used in the production process. The final element is mark, which can be used to define a start or end mark of production process. It's also used to define the reporting point and planning mark. What exactly is a reporting point in the context of mark? It defines the point at which the production process is required to be regarded. A planning mark enables you to group bill of operation elements for planning purposes. Every mark that is indicated as a planning mark defines a planning section. All the operations within this section are grouped to a planning operation. Now, let's create the master data elements in the system. So, I will quickly log into the Business Bydesign system, okay, and I will be logging in as production planner. Let's try to create the bill of material for the cartridge example that we have taken. To start with, I have already created my products in the system. Let me quickly look at those products. Now, I have created ball carrier, cartridge, which is my finished product, and I have two types of ink, black and red, and I have two types of products, plastic and steel. Let's try to create a bill of material using all these components. As discussed earlier, I will be creating the bill of material from the work center, planning and production master data. From here, I will be navigating to new production bill of material. In here, since I would like to create the bill of material for cartridge, first I have to enter my material over here. Okay, system suggests the BOM ID. It's up to you whether you would like to use the same ID or you want to change it to a different one, and you can give some kind of a description over here. I'm just copying the BOM ID as is, and this represents the output quantity. Whatever components you are going to maintain in the BOM are always in relation to this particular quantity. Now, as I mentioned, echo is mandatory element for creating bill of material. So let's try to create an echo. So I would like to use something called as echo. This is a document that I am creating here. Ideally, you can already have a document which you can use. In this case, I am creating the echo dynamically, which is valid from the 1st of August, and I can copy the same description here. I have already created an echo here. At this point, let's try to create the input products. Now, I want to group all my stem products and the ink products. So let me start with the first group, ink. And in ink, I have two kind of items. One is ink red. And I would say that for making one cartridge, I need 10 grams of ink, or maybe 10 units of ink. Okay. Similarly, I'm actually going to add another row, and I would like to create another item in the same ink group, but this time belonging to a different color. And I would say again I need 10 units of ink. Similarly, I will now add all the other elements of the cartridge. So I would like to start with stem, and in the stem group I primarily have a plastic stem and steel stem. Each for making one cartridge I would be needing one stem. Similarly, I will be adding another element, okay, and so the validations in the system will keep on working, so it might be throwing some warnings. So until you complete the BOM, you can ignore those warnings, unless otherwise there are errors. There is nothing to worry about at this point of time. So finally, I would like to add the ball, because we have the components as ball and ball carriers as well. And I would say I would be needing one ball. And finally, I am having the section as carrier. Okay. So with that, I actually completed entering all the components that are required to make the pen. But as you have already understood, I have taken two stems and I have taken two inks, which are not required in one cartridge. So this is where the variants come into picture. So let us first save this BOM in its in-process status, okay, and navigate to the view all. In here we can see already a variant 1 got created. Let's say in my pen, I want to first create a black pen with a plastic stem or maybe steel stem. So I would like to reword it as black underscore steel. Now in the input products, I can actually choose my variants. Since I would like to use the black, I want to put this indicator on, and I don't want red ink, I will switch it off, and similarly I don't want plastic product, so I will switch it off. With that, I created variant 1, which is primarily referring to the black ink and the steel stem. Let me create one more variant. This time I want to create a pen with a red ink and a plastic stem. So I can create some kind of a wording. This wording is up to you the way you want to call it. Okay, and the product is the same product. I am trying to create the cartridge. And for making one cartridge, let's try to define the input products. So once I created the variant, I can see my red underscore plastic pen, and I'll be choosing my product. I need ball, I definitely need ball carrier, and I don't need black ink, I need red ink. I need plastic stem because that's the variant I would like to create, and finally I don't need steel stem. With that, I at least created the bomb. So now the bomb is created, but it's still not in the consistent status. Okay, if you can see, it is still in the in preparation status, or it's check pending status. For you to get the bomb into consistent mode, you always need to have the echo completed. So let's complete the echo. Once I complete the echo here, then I can actually perform the check on the bomb, and it turns the corresponding variant into consistent mode. Now with that, we created the bomb for the cartridge, and we have created two different variants. Depending upon the variant you choose, either it can be a black ink with a steel stem or a red ink with a plastic stem. The other important element that we need to understand here is the indicator called as fixed quantity. In our example, we have not selected this indicator for any of the products. What exactly this means? This actually means that this particular component quantity is fixed for any number of output products. If I take an example, in our case, we mentioned that for making one cartridge, I need one ball. But in the same example, if I have switched on this indicator, then independent of how many cartridges you want to create, system will always plan for one ball. So that is the significance of this fixed quantity. In case if your bomb is having element which is independent of the output product, then you have to enable this indicator. So that constitutes the completion of the bomb. The other important element from the bomb is the multi-level structure. So it can happen that your components are also having the sub-assemblies. In the example we have taken, none of the components have sub-assemblies. But what if your output product is made up of sub-assemblies, okay, and each sub-assembly has further bombs in it? Then in the business by design system, there is a provision for you to explode the list of all the components. Let us take one such example. So I have a product called P100401. This is a product which I already have in the system. So let me check the BOM of that element. If I would like to see the first level of this BOM, I can just say I want to see first level, and I can just expand all. System will just show you the first level of the components. But it so happened in this particular system, for these products, there are subsequent components or the subsequent BOMs that are created. So I can just go to the level 2, and system will actually show me the next level. See, system explodes the components of the sub-assemblies as well. So in case if your components are having sub-assemblies, there is a provision in the system where you can explode all these components. Now, having created the master data from the standpoint of bill of material or BOM, let's now quickly create the bill of operations. Again, going to the master data, I will create a new bill of operations. We need to understand that bill of operation is independent of a particular material. These are nothing but the sequence of operations. For example, I am doing some filling operation here. I am doing some assembly operation here. This filling and assembly operation can be applied to any kind of output product. So here, let us say that I want to create a bill of operation for maybe cartridge assembly, or maybe let's call it as a assembly process of cartridge. We can call it anything. Okay. So I'm just creating that. Okay. And I would like to give the same name here. And we also need to create at what site you are actually planning to create this production process. Okay, so this is the site that I want to use it in the system, and I would say that for creating one unit okay, one each of a particular unit, doesn't matter what output product it is, because it is independent of the output product. Okay, we want to see that for making one unit of a product, how exactly we want to define the process. So during that course, one of the most important element in the definition of bill of operations is task generation method. This task generation method determines how many production tasks that will be created later on during the execution process. Okay, whether the tasks are to be created based upon the activities or based upon the operations or based upon the reporting points, the user can take a call how the final execution tasks are required to be created. Let's say that for this particular example purpose, we would like to select operations. It means that for every operation, there will be a task that will be created in the system. Now let's go to the structure and let's try to build the operations. Primarily in this cartridge assembly, let's try to create two operations. Operation number one, the filling operation, where we fill the ink into the stem. Operation number two, the final assembly, where we take the assembly of the stem with ink and we will assemble that with the ball and the ball carrier. So let's create the operation 1, and in each and every operation you can create a setup activity and a produce activity. So let's start with the setup activity. Let's say that initially for you to fill the ink into the stem, you need to first set up the machine, which takes some 5 minutes, and then for filling the ink into one stem, it takes 1 minute. So let's try to create that particular operation in the system. I am using one of the existing machines in the system, okay, and I would say the setup would take around 5 minutes. Okay. Now, in this activity, I already have a setup activity. Let's try to create one more activity. That's what we call the produce activity, and the variable duration is let's say 01. Let's say it will take 1 minute to fill 10 units of ink into 1 unit of stem. Okay. So, and we say that the produce activity is going to come after setup activity. So I will move down my activity. This is the first assembling process of ink into the stem, and we want to record this particular step at the time of execution. So as we discussed earlier, in order to record something, we always have to capture a mark. So let's try to insert a mark after operation. So I will insert a mark and I would say reporting point. If you want this mark to be equally important from the standpoint of planning, I can also select it as planning mark. Okay, so I have the make operation. I can give the description here as filling ink. Okay, and I have this progress reporting, and once I complete filling ink, I would like to create the assembly. So I will create one more operation, and this operation we will not have any more setup activities because the machine is already set up. We would like to just perform the final assembly. So I am using the same resource again, and I would like to give the variable duration as 1 minute again, so that it takes 1 minute to complete the entire stem and ink assembly along with the ball and carrier to create one final cartridge. So with that, if you see, we completed the produce activity as an operation, and finally we have the end activity. With that, we complete the final production process. So this is a process that we have already defined, and let us quickly save it. Let's perform the consistency check. So there are no errors. So our bill of operation is perfectly created. Now, what we have done is that we have created the bill of materials, and we have created bill of operations. Let's try to combine these two things in order to create production model. So let's start with the production model. I will create a new production model. In the new production model, I am actually creating for cartridge again, because this is where I am actually combining the operations. Okay, I can say that this model is applicable only for the production orders which are above 100 units and below 1000 units. You can create any number of production models, and I can choose the variant that I created earlier. So I created the black and steel variant. I would like to use that because I would like to create model for that, and I can choose the variant that I just created. The variant that I just created from the BOM. So the cartridge assembly is what I have created. So I am selecting my bill of operations. So at this point, I will just navigate to the next screen and I can actually finish the production model. But however, you can also edit it further in order to add some other important parameters. So for example, you can already see that the operations that we have created earlier have all got carry forwarded from the operations into the production model. And the other important thing is the product assignment. We mentioned the operation 1 filling ink is where the stem and ink are required. At that operation, I don't really need the ball and the ball assembly, ball carrier. So what I would do is I would select my particular activity and I can pass on the corresponding ink and the stem into this particular activity, and I will link them with the help of item group. Similarly, I will take the produce activity and then I will actually pass on the ball and carrier into this particular activity. So now at this point I can check the consistency of it, and the consistency is good. Other than some few warnings, the product model is perfectly fine, and then I would release it for planning and execution. What exactly is happening when I say release it for planning and execution? System will create two production models, one called as a planning production model, one called as execution production model. Planning production model is primarily used during the planning process, and execution production model is used primarily in the execution operations. Okay, so with that we completed the creation of all the master data elements. We started with BOM, we completed BOO, and then we combined the BOM and BOO in order to create a model, and finally in the model we have two variants, the planning production model and the execution production model. Let's go back to our slide deck. Now this is a slide which gives a quick overview of all the master data elements. The bill of material, which is created with the help of engineering change order, and the bill of operations. Combining the bill of operations and bill of material, you create a production model, and from the production model you have two variants, that is the release planning model and the released execution model. And the release planning model is used in the production proposal, and the released execution model is used in all the execution documents such as production task, production lot, production order and production request. With that, we come to the end of this particular unit, production master data. Okay, to quickly summarize, we have understood the following in this unit: production bill of material usage and creation, production bill of operation usage and creation, and production model usage and creation. In the next unit, we will go over the planning function. Let's meet there. Until then, goodbye.